Hello again and welcome to another bearing removal and installation video featuring Boca bearings. Now today's engine is a very tired old OS 46AX engine. Now this engine came to me from a friend and it was in really poor condition. In fact, it's not even a complete engine. And today what I want to do is I want to see if I need to test to see if the crankshaft and crankcase or even viable for me to try and attempt to restore this engine, because it just felt really strange. And I think the best way for me to evaluate this is to get these bearings out of this engine and put them in there, put a new set of Boca bearings in there and see if it spins well, see if it feels right, and then I'll know from there whether I should continue to try to find the rest of the parts necessary to restore this engine. So with that said, let's go straight to the table and look at the engine. Okay, so here on the table I've got, it's just kind of partially thrown together just for looks, but I've got what remains of this OS 46AX engine here, and it came to me and it was pretty much all disassembled and in pieces, but when I got it I just didn't think it felt right when I was turning it over. And this has actually already been through the ultrasonic one time because it was just so rough feeling, but I'm just trying to assess whether it feels like this actually turns well enough to restore. So I thought the best way for me to really determine that is to get these old bearings out of here and replace them and see if that will assist me in determining whether or not I should spend any kind of money at all trying to get this thing back together. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove these bearings and see if there's anything that needs to be cleaned up, and then we will get right on to putting some new bearings in here and assessing whether or not this engine is salvageable. Now I have no idea how many times this engine's been serviced. It just felt so odd to me when I was rotating it over, but that's what we're going to have to wait and see. So to me right away it seems odd that we would have no shield on the front bearing. So I mean, I have no idea the history of this engine or anything whatsoever. I think I've got that warm enough to get this crankshaft out. Okay, so that's out. Kind of. Yes, it just felt weird. So the bearing stayed in there, and hopefully I can get that out. Let's just go on to removing this front bearing here next. Oh wow, now that popped out really quickly, which is weird. Okay, so I'm gonna have to see if I can get a lip on this bearing here and get it coming out, because it feels like it's really flush. And it also feels like maybe I don't have it hot enough, so I'm going to have to heat this up a little bit more. Okay, I've got smoke happening, so it must be warm enough. It's just that there's really not much of an edge here. I'm getting that bearing out now. Okay, yep, sounds like that bearing came out. So this is weird. Neither of these bearings look too horrible, but like I said, I did put this through the ultrasonic already too because of the condition this engine was in. Neither of these bearings feels very good. So the next thing I'm going to do here now to finish this assessment is I may do a little bit of hand cleaning inside here and inspect it, and then put some new bearings in it and see how it turns over. And if it turns over fine and doesn't seem like the crank is bent, I'll get this crankshaft cleaned up also. Then maybe I can go ahead and invest the money in the parts and get this engine back up and running. So let me go and clean these parts up, and then we'll install some Boca bearings and see how it feels. Okay, I've got this engine crankcase cleaned up. and ready to accept some bearings. And I've got the crankshaft cleaned up as good as I could get it. There's still a little bit of wear marking on here, which is kind of odd, but it's ready to go. So I've got my light hammer, my bottle of Boca's Lightning Lube Road Power that I always use to do a bearing installation as my reassembly lube, my vise, glove, heat gun, and a brand new set of Boca bearings. Now the kit number for this particular engine is a very common bearing size, and this is the ENK-001 set. So let's pull these bearings out and remove some shields on them and get them ready to go. Oh, it looks like I had already been looking at these bearings and took them out of the bags already. So here's our rear main, front bearing. Rear main is going to have both shields removed as normal for a rear bearing. And now the front, we're just going to remove one of them so that we leave the very front of it shielded. And there we go. So now our bearings are ready to be installed. Now I always use a little bit of road power as my assembly lube, and I put it in a jar. I've already got enough in this jar, so I'm not going to bother putting any more in there. But I am going to go ahead and start lubricating these parts up. And I'm making kind of a mess here. That's okay. So I'll just lubricate all of these mating parts up and everything else as long as I'm at it. This will help facilitate these bearings going in. I noticed that it looks like this bearings in this engine have probably been replaced several times before because this front area looks kind of beat up. But maybe that's why it felt really strange to me when I first got this engine. I've left the drive hub here so that once I get these installed, I can test and see how it feels. So first thing we're going to do here is just, I always put this rear bearing on the crankshaft and see how that's going to go on there and fit. Okay, that feels... Okay, so that's turning really smoothly. Let's see if that holds up as when I put it in the crankcase. So now I'm going to I'll install the front bearing, and then I'll use that as my centering mechanism to go in here. So we're just going to heat this guy up, this crankcase up, and do this bearing installation, see if I've got an engine that's worthy of spending any money on. Let's see if that's enough. Now see, I don't like that at all. That front bearing, I think my glove was in the way. That front bearing just I mean, I might even be able to get it to come out like this. It just dropped into place. It didn't require any tapping. So that tells me that this is potentially not the first time that this engine has ever had bearings replaced in it. And it may not be a good fit here. So let's just tap this rear in and see what happens. I'm not entirely sure that's in all the way, so I'm going to put this cover on here. And yeah, see, I'm putting this cover on, and I don't have this fully inserted, but I'm also not seeing that this is going in straight. It's just, I'm turning the cover. Maybe there's something deformed with the cover, but something just doesn't seem right in this crankcase housing. So let's see if I can get that fully seated. Well, it still feels like it's smooth, so that's one of the ways you can test and see if you've got your rear bearing fully seated, is have your rear cover available and make sure that it rotates. Oh, this feels really good. So maybe it was just crud in there that was causing it to feel really poorly before, because that feels really, I know you can't see it now, it feels really nice spinning in there. So now the only thing I think I'm really lacking is, I think I've got a carburetor for this engine, but I have to find a piston and sleeve set for this engine to actually get it operational again, because this is an ABC engine and you have to get a piston and sleeve that's a matching set. So it looks like the crankcase is fine, even though it was odd that this front bearing just kind of dropped into place. We'll have to see how if it leaks or anything like that once I get this engine back together. But there you go. Boca bearings to the rescue potentially for this old OS 46AX engine.